e-commerce. Before we begin, a few reminders. First, you can ask questions at any time during the presentation by typing them into the question box at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to get them in the moment, but if we can't, we'll address them during the Q&A session at the end. Second, if you experience audio issues at any point during the webinar, try logging out and logging back in. That usually fixes the issue. In addition, we are recording this webinar and we'll send the recording to all of you later this week. I also want to talk briefly about why we're here today. As you might already know, Indiegogo has teamed up with Weebly to help entrepreneurs use web design tools for pre-campaign marketing and e-commerce. Part of that collaboration is educational resources like this webinar. In addition, Weebly is offering Indiegogo entrepreneurs a special 50% discount on website plans. So if you're planning to build a website soon, be sure to check that offer out in Indiegogo.com. With that, I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers. First, we'll discuss pre-campaign marketing with Enzo New from Indiegogo, who looked for promising hardware and design campaigners and helps them find success on the platform. Next, we'll hear from Chris Sheridan and Kristen Blue from Weebly, who will discuss web design best practices for pre-campaign landing pages. With that, I'm excited to introduce Enzo. So Enzo, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Martin, and thanks for hosting us today. So one of the most common questions that we get asked as a hardware manager here at Indiegogo comes from the entrepreneurs themselves. And they typically ask, how did so-and-so campaign launch such a successful campaign on the crowdfunding launch? Well, the answer is there's no particular shortcut to it. It really takes months and months of pre-campaign preparations in order to build that foundational community that will initiate the momentum during the initial launch of the campaign. So how do you build this community? Typically, campaigners are using their social media channels to create content that they're redirecting to their landing page where they can collect those emails. And I can't stress how important this foundational community is, because it's typically the single biggest indicator of a successful campaign. And that's because if you're able to raise around a third of your internal campaign goal within the first 48 hours of launching, you are more likely to have a successful campaign. Think of it as if you were opening a new restaurant. If you're having more initial diners in that restaurant on opening day, you're more likely to get more diners to enjoy your food because there's that initial community that's supporting you in that restaurant. Friends and family are going to be your first community members, but you want to reach out beyond that. And through your social media channels and your content marketing, you're able to hopefully share the product and the launch of the campaign with the friends and family members of those people who are already in your community. So let's get down to some raw numbers here. Say you're launching a campaign and your internal goal is around $30,000 in funding. Your offering is a $50 perk. That means to get up to at least a third of that goal, you'll need to raise at least $10,000 within the first 48 hours. And if you divide that by the $50 perk, you essentially need to sell around 200 units of that perks or convince 200 backers to back your campaign. And if we follow the 5% conversion rule for your email newsletter, you'll need to build an email list big enough that will initiate that 5% of the momentum, which means that you'll want to multiply the 200 backers with 20 to equate to 4,000 individuals in your email list. So how do you collect those 4,000 emails? You do so by building an email landing page. So the landing page is treated as if it's your headquarters in your pre-campaign stage. It's a place for you to lead generate, generate leads for the campaign launch, validate the product's reliability, and also it's a good place for you to be testing some of your marketing assets. This is a good way for you to figure out what assets are going to convert before you launch the campaign, so that when you are having those patients come in, your ads, your pictures, your brand messaging is already on point and it's going to convert. So what are some of those strategies that you can leverage in your pre-campaign marketing? You're going to want to create a sense of urgency and scarcity to collect as many emails as possible. One of the most important call to actions for any campaigner in the collection of emails stage is to create a sense of urgency by saying that if you subscribe to this email list, you're going to be the first of everyone to know when the campaign launches and also get the discount in that super account. So that will create an urgency for those backers to sign up for your emails so that they'll be the first to know when the campaign launches. The landing page is also a good way for you to test out your marketing assets, as I mentioned. So this is specifically called A/B testing. It's where you can test out image A, whether it's a woman that's working with your product or if it's a male working with your product. And from those testings, you can determine which image is going to convert best in terms of collecting those valuable emails for the launch of the campaign. And finally, of course, the big reason why you're creating this pre-campaign page is to create some initial buzz before the campaign launches so that in the morning of the campaign launch, everybody's ready with their credit card numbers open, ready to contribute towards that campaign. So yeah, if you're interested in launching a new hardware and design campaign on Indiegogo, feel free to email me at enzo.njoo@indiegogo.com. Next up, I'd like to switch it to Chris to talk more about how to create an effective landing page.
Great. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Chris Sheridan. I run business development for Weebly. And as Enzo said, we have partnered with Indiegogo last year to focus on bringing the entrepreneurs and founders in the organization access to easy to build website tools and then eventually e-commerce tools. But as Enzo said, today we're very focused on talking about strategies around the pre-campaign landing page. So let's go ahead and continue. So what are the keys to an effective landing page? We always tell our customers that when you're beginning your website, it doesn't have to be perfect to be effective at the beginning. You want to stay focused, you want to have a plan, and you want to focus on a few key concepts to get your site off the ground. And that's what I want to focus on today. What are those key concepts we can focus on today that will help us build an effective page and not stress us out, but get us really excited to go to market? So the priorities we in educating our customer base and talking about the pre-campaign landing pages, we always focus on two things. The first is be professional. Think about your pre-campaign landing page as a representative of your image, your product's image, your brand's image, and that's really key. And so what are some key pieces in being professional? The first is when you start building your pre-campaign landing page, make sure you're building it on a responsive design. Very important, because responsive design basically means your site will render seamlessly across a desktop, mobile device like a tablet or smartphone. So all your clients can find you across any device and you look great. The second piece, high quality images. We're going to talk a lot about this today in the terms of photos, but the bottom line is it's very important at the beginning to invest in high quality photos. They will be one of the cornerstones on the first impression you make with your clients. And then lastly, a dedicated domain name. A domain is very important. Obviously, it's very part and parcel with your pre-campaign landing page. So we want that name to be meaningful. We want it to represent your brand. We want it to be memorable. And we'll talk more about the selection of that domain name today. The second area of just overall guidance for everybody on the phone today is that the pre-campaign page being 1 page long is fine. That's all we need to get this campaign off the ground. 1 page is sufficient. 1 page will keep your audience focused, and 1 page ideally is going to drive a lot of call to actions and a lot of conversions for you. And then finally, speaking of call to actions and conversions, it's all about collecting emails, and I think that's another major benefit of it being 1 page. We're going to keep your potential clients focused and converting and giving you their email address. Moving on. So the other key concept that we want to talk about is, in addition to those kind of 2 high level ideas, there's kind of 5 steps we wanted to present to you today. Think of this as guidance as you work on your site. You know, as you start building your site, as you start managing your site week over week, these are 5 areas that you can really focus on and kind of build a plan around for managing your website. So before I go any further, let me just pause for 1 second because my colleague Kristen Blue is on the phone, and I just wanted to see if she wanted to jump in real quick and add anything before we dive into these 5 elements.
Yeah, so one thing I just wanted to add here is a lot of people feel intimidated by web design. Building a website, you open the editor app, you might not know where to begin, and hopefully we're laying some groundwork here to help clear those things up and give you guys the confidence to move forward with that. But one other thing here too is this is really going to add credibility to what you're doing. Without an official website, there's not really much for people to reference there, and just having your name out there and people will see that and go like, wow, they're really doing this. They have this great looking website up. That's going to give you credibility. People are going to trust what you're doing. And to circle back to what Chris said, it just makes you look professional. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork there that having a website is really going to help build credibility with your audience.
Let me go ahead and I'm going to move to the next slide now. So the first concept we want to speak about today in terms of your pre-campaign landing page is the design of the page. So as we talked about earlier, responsive design is very important. Responsive design, again, is going to ensure that your website that you're investing all your energy in looks great on the desktop, looks great on the smartphone, and looks great on the tablet. So I just want to reiterate that one more time. That should already be built into your themes. There's really nothing you should do other than just ensuring whatever platform you're using uses responsive themes. The other key elements, though, in the first beginning stages of building out your landing page is you're going to be focusing on a couple things. Your company name, which inevitably leads to your logo being present on the website. Your product photos, and your tagline and description. I wanted to kind of pause on this particular one because we talked to a lot of customers and a lot of entrepreneurs that we learned about this topic. What should I write? What should be my description? And I actually think the tagline and description is an opportunity for you to really talk about your mission, your, creating like an emotional connection with your clients at this stage. Why are you doing this? Why are you building this product? What problem are you trying to solve? And so that's a really great thing that people can identify with. So, and then finally, of course, is the CTA, the call to action. And when you take those 4 elements, your company name and your logo, your product photo, your description about what you're passionate about with this product, what problems you're solving with this product, you're really taking the very first step in building your brand. And that's going to be a common theme as we go throughout this deck, is getting the company name correct, getting your logo correct, investing in high quality photos. All of these things are building your brand. And just to share a few stats on the brand, we believe we've done some focus groups and studies on these type of decisions in the early days. And in our studies, we have discovered that 70% of consumers make purchases based on a brand name. And 90% of consumers expect that their brand experience is going to be similar across all platforms. So the domain name, the company name, the responsive themes, those things matter. So let me pause right there and just, Kristen, did you want to add anything here?
Yeah, so I think the main thing, and we'll go into design a little bit more later, but just think of the landing page like this is your chance to draw people in, and you want to inspire people, you want to make them excited, and I think that's where like the tagline and is important. Like you can see the screenshot here. It's a beautiful picture. It says Explore 14K. It's got a call to action. And that's just a really nice looking page. And that draws me in and makes me say, like, what is this about? Like, what are they exploring here? So when I think of this page, I think of building excitement.
Thank you, Kristen. Let's move on to the next slide. So I just want to go a little bit deeper into the design. And as you get comfortable with your landing page and as you begin to evolve your website over time, maybe adding a second page, etc., the things like the colors and images you represent in your photos and the fonts, those will all be key pieces that will go into your brand building. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that because, fonts are often overlooked. And a font can be a great way to establish your brand and be another element that differentiates you from your customers and builds loyalty between your clients. So I just want to bring those out and also point to the fact that we have built a guide, as you can see down here, weebly.com/guide/brand building, that kind of outlines very specific recommendations and tools and actually other services you could use to help you really work and iterate on your brand while you're also obviously building out your pre-campaign landing page. But I like this sentence here at the very bottom. Your biggest priorities should be consistency and authenticity. And I think on the consistency side, we've talked about a customer being able to reach you via the phone, tablet, or desktop and have the same experience, regardless of how they get to you. A customer reading your material, identifying with your brand, and your logo looks the same across all those devices. And what you're really doing there is you're building loyalty with your customer and you're building a positive experience with your customer. And what we know at Weebly is as you build positive experiences and people become comfortable with your brand and your brand is always the same across any device, you can start building word of mouth. And one of the things we've learned about word of mouth at Weebly is that it's a big driver of leads. And so, in terms of referrals, that's a big way to drive referrals. And so I feel like these are things, again, that on paper seem sort of minute and maybe technical, the colors, the photos, the textures, the fonts, but they matter and they build confidence and they can lead ultimately to word of mouth referrals. And so they should be taken seriously. So before we move on to the next topic, let me just pause again and just see, Kristen, did you have anything else you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think another important thing when you're looking just at something as simple as like which fonts and which colors do I use and which textures. Those are all visual questions, but when you take a step back and you think about what you're building, think about your mission and your brand purpose and your promise, like what are you doing? Who are you going after? And what does your company care about? And when I look at websites that really stand out to me as compelling and good, those companies are very familiar with who their target market is, who they're going after. So, for example, like if you were selling, I don't know, like a meditation something rather, and your website had really bright colors and it was just visually like super bold, like that would be a little conflicting with the meditation piece, the calming piece. So when you think about design and how you're going to move forward with selecting those colors and the kind of like the mood of your website, you really want to look at your brand personality and your mission statement and what you're going after. And I think that will help guide a lot of where you go with design.
Great. So just pausing again one more time, we're keeping it simple. We're focused on our company name right now. We're focused on our logo. We're focused on a quick, ideally emotional connection to our customer through our product description or your sense of mission while you're building the product. What types of problems are you solving? And we're keeping people focused. We're keeping them very focused on bringing them to that email box and then handing over their email because they're just as excited as you are to learn more. So I wanted to continue now down the list of other items. So we talked about design. The natural next step beyond design is content. And what is content? Content, as we've talked about initially in the pre-campaign landing page, can be your product taglines. It could be a product description, and it's going to be that call to action. And as we say here on the slide, the trick to making these elements work is empathy. You're connecting on an emotional level with your customers. So we're going to use simple, jargon-free language. You know, based on our experience, people don't always understand abbreviations. People don't always understand slang, let's say, for certain technical references. So be wary of those things. Make sure you're appealing to a broader audience by eliminating those kind of items from your content. Number two, a realistic view of how your product / campaign benefits backers. This is a very important piece. This is really defining your value prop. What problem are you solving? How do you differentiate from your competitors? What's the new angle you're bringing to this product, to this issue? And then finally, a legitimately desirable CTA, which, as we heard at the beginning of this presentation, I feel like Indiegogo does a lot of great educational tools to help you think about those CTAs and drive excitement for people to give you the email address. But content should not be hard. Content in phase one should be simple. We're going to focus on the product. You can share your mission. You can share what your passion is. You can share what your problem you're solving. But I think these kind of 3 guidelines are good. Removing the jargon, keeping it realistic on how your product's going to solve problems, how people can help benefit and back you. And then finally, bringing everybody to that legitimately desirable CTA.
Yeah, and one thing to jump in here, I do think that the jargon comment is really important. I have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Weebly e-commerce websites and landing pages in my time at Weebly. And sometimes people have really great products, but they don't know how to talk to them to the general public. And I did see a great question come in about, is it better to pitch technically or emotionally? And I think when you're looking at the landing page, I think that empathy, which to me stands out and resonates as an emotional word, I think that's really important. And let's see, the technical pieces again can really lose people when you have a strong message. If you're talking in a different language that doesn't resonate with most people, they're going to pass. Like that, there's a lot on the internet. They're clicking through. This is your chance to really grab people, and I think empathy, tying excitement there is like really important to capturing those emails.
So moving on to the next slide, another comment on content, call to action tactics for crowdfunding. So be sure to call out that you're launching an Indiegogo campaign so potential backers know exactly what they're signing up for. Good to know. In addition, many effective pre-campaign CTAs create a sense of urgency or excitement to convince people to sign up now. Now, what are some examples of convincing people to sign up now? One, early bird discounts. 2, limited supply of products. 3, launch date or countdown clocks. And then finally, VIP or early adopter messages. The other piece around this too is this is another area where iteration is going to come into as well. At the beginning of this presentation, we've talked about it doesn't need to be perfect at the beginning. And I would say the same here for this slide. These are ideas to drive engagement, to drive conversions. If early bird discounts aren't working, then you have many different ways you can switch gears and try the limited supply of products. So really, you know, one of the themes of this whole discussion is we're testing. We're testing new ideas, and we're testing ways to really drive action. Kristen, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I think the only thing to really add here is, again, this is like building excitement, and it is testing just to see what people are responding to. So I think a great thing about Weebly is it's really easy to make changes, and it's very easy to publish. And, you know, if you can try something out for a week and see how it goes, like if people don't respond to early bird discounts, maybe they respond to the urgency of like limited supply. So it's very easy to just log into the editor, update some text, click the publish button, and boom, you've made that change. So when you're looking at this, something I see in early website building is people are scared to make changes and they feel very committed to what they've put in the editor. Just know that it's very easy to change and very easy to be flexible.
Hey everyone, we're just waiting for Chris's audio to come back. Just sit tight for a moment and he'll be with us shortly.
Okay, sorry, I got paused. I assume everybody can hear me now? I'm going to assume yes, that you can hear me. Sorry about that. I'm back. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to switch gears to photography. The two key statistics for everybody. 70% of online shoppers say that product photos are very influential in purchasing decisions. Secondly, 22% of product returns are because the products look different than photos. Earlier, I talked about the investment in making photos high definition, high quality, right? This is the first impression of your product to the customer. Let's make sure it's a great first impression. But secondly, as you can see here, photos are a big influencer in whether or not a customer is going to purchase or even give up their email address to you. And then we find it very interesting. Weebly has been in e-commerce since 2012, and you know, these are things we've learned on as we've gotten bigger in e-commerce. Is this interesting side effect of product photos not matching the actual product and driving up returns? There is one other stat I wanted to share with everybody on the phone too, from our kind of focus groups and surveys that we do. Professional photography can boost sales by over 80%. So this is a major driver in conversions and just driving confidence that someone's buying a quality product. So just in terms of time, let me move on to the next slide about photos too. There's 3 types of photos that we wanted to talk to you about today. These are primarily used on e-commerce websites, and they're perfect for landing pages. And so, you know, there's lots of flexibility with these type of suggestions. The first one is the hero image. Showcase your product in an emphatic way, typically larger than other photo types and a little bit more dramatic in order to capture the attention. In short, hero images overtake the entire website. So you couldn't, if you're going to go that direction, I think it's even more imperative you double down on a high quality photo, because effectively that photo has become your entire website. Then there's the lifestyle image. Shows the product in a lifelike setting in order to show how to use the product or associate it with an on-brand lifestyle. So let's say you're building a product that focuses on travel. Pictures that reinforce that how your product's working in a travel environment, in an airport, for example. Perfect. But again, let's make sure they're high quality and that they're really reinforcing trust in your product and they're capturing your product correctly. And then the final one is the obvious one. The product photo shows what your product looks like either on its own or in a group, potentially with scale or close detail in order to illustrate its exact appearance. This, as you can see here, is perfect for the landing page. Absolutely perfect, and also will definitely be duplicated when you move to an e-commerce site. I believe on this one too, I wanted to share one other, two other stats with you about product photos. 75% of consumers we surveyed at Weebly, rated product photos as very influential when deciding whether they want to buy a product online. And 76% of product photos are on white backgrounds. This means if you're looking to build a unique brand, there's room to use bright colors or prints, etc., to kind of draw a more attractive setting to your product. So I thought that was interesting that we were learning that the majority of product photos are on a white background. So another opportunity to differentiate yourself and draw different attention to your product by walking away from that background. Let me pause here. Hero image, lifestyle image, product photo, 3 really creative ways to kind of resonate your product on your landing page. Kristen, did you want to add anything about photos before we move on?
Yeah, so I think photos are absolutely crucial to having a good-looking website and to also make it compelling, inspirational, all of those things. I personally, my dad's an entrepreneur, and I actually started building a website for him. And one of the roadblocks we run into is, like, I'm pretty much a website expert with Weebly Builder and e-commerce, but he did not have good pictures of his products. So without that, I told him, I don't think that this is going to be successful if you don't have these pictures to really draw people in. So he made the personal decision to invest in a photographer for product photos. And I think that is really important. If you don't have a good-looking website, people are so used to scrolling Instagram, and we're constantly bombarded with pictures online. If you don't have something to draw people in, you will lose people.
Great. Okay, moving on, because I know we're halfway through our time. So I wanted to kind of sum it up. Best practices for photography: match photos carefully to your brand identity. Photos or video are the first indication to potential backers about how they should feel about your product. Again, first impressions, first time seeing your product, first time seeing your brand. Shoot with natural light. Be in a well-lit room or even outside. The more natural light, the better. And then finally, try your best to eliminate shadows. Don't have to go crazy. It's fairly easy to remove shadows using Photoshop or another photo tool. Last point here we wanted to leave you with is another guide. We have a detailed guide at Weebly focused on product photography. Again, tools available to you, other techniques to grab the perfect shot, other sales techniques, and way to position your photos on your website. So take note of that, and ideally that will be helpful to you and instrumental to you in your pre-campaign work. Now, want to move to a final topic related to, or actually almost final topic on our guidance here, is the domain name. So just a few keywords on the domain name. The domain name, obviously, very important. And I want to kind of begin by just giving some quick guidance. At Weebly, to help people just kind of kickstart the process, we typically give them a third-level domain, or what I like to refer to as a temporary domain. So, for example, what is a temporary domain? It could be chris.weebly.com. That's great. That helps you get started. You can kind of test the page out. You're still in pre-building. But before you hit publish, before you start sharing the site, you don't really want to use that third-level domain. That's not your business. you really want to invest in purchasing mybusiness.com or any appropriate TLD. So some quick guidance. Let's make sure it's memorable. We want it to be easily shareable. We want people to be able to recall it and easily find it on the web. Second, short. It is actually still possible to find short domain names today. Now, maybe not so much in .com. A lot of names obviously are taken in .com, but there's a lot of other extensions out there. So you could do .co. You also have a lot of availability in these new TLDs. So there's new domain name extensions on the internet now. There's like 1,000 extensions. So .health, .doctor, for example, these are all new domain TLDs available to you. And they have a lot of availability, and that's why I mentioned them there, because you can still get short domain names in those TLDs. But let's not forget that the domain name is so important because, one, it's directly linked to your website. So it's gonna be a big it should be a big driver of organic traffic to your website. And then what's the other critical role domain names will play in your pre-campaign strategy? It will be your email address. Info at, sales at, contact at. So these are highly visible things. The domain is being visible on your website. The domain has ultra visibility in email. So always good to make sure it's representing your brand, is memorable, can be easily shared, and ideally is short, meaning it's not like 50 letters long.com. Okay, so final note, testing. So we've talked about design, content, photography, the importance of selecting the domain name. Now we're talking about testing. And I think, as we've said from the beginning, the theme here is that it doesn't have to be perfect on step one. You're launching your one-page pre-campaign landing page, but over time, you will learn feedback. You may want to change a color. You may want to update the content to try a different CTA. These are things where your editor, your website editor, the tool you're going to use to make changes to your website becomes very important. The more confidence you have in the editor, the more you're willing to test, the more you can solve problems, the more you can build out the website. So I always say to customers, there's two things: making your site look good and also being comfortable and confident in the editor. Those are inextricably linked together. So the more confident you are, the faster you're going to be able to evolve your website. So, test a lot of platforms, pick the one you're most confident with, and you feel like you can make a lot of changes easily with. That would be our recommendation long term. And before we go any further, let me just pause one more time. Kristen, do you want to add anything to that about the editor?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight again, like the Weebly editor is super easy to use. It's a drag and drop editor. You can click the delete button and take something off your website and drag and drop. Say you wanted to test a new picture. You just click the picture icon and drag it to the page, upload the picture and click the publish button, and it's live on the internet. Like I'm really familiar with the editor, so it takes me like seconds to make changes in the editor now. So don't ever feel like you're stuck with anything or you can't, rebuild it. It's really flexible, really easy to use. So don't be scared to get in there and make changes.
Okay. Great. So you've built your landing page. We've now just got everything done. You've pressed publish, you're out there in the wild, you're collecting email addresses. This is great. What's the next step beyond that? And what I wanted to kind of share with you are 3 key ideas for what the future could be like post your pre-campaign landing page. So part 1, what are the 3 things? Marketing, analytics, planning for e-commerce. On marketing, this is going to be a big area. Engaging your customers primarily, right, through the emails you're collecting. So in your case, I see this group being very focused on email marketing post launching your pre-campaign landing page. So what's our guidance for you on email marketing? Strive for consistency. Be consistent between your landing page and your promotions. Continue testing messages, different offers, different images. This is really key. You can be very experimental in email. Email is not a one-dimensional product. It can be very flexible, and it can be a great source of feedback, and a lot of learnings can be pulled out of email marketing. And then finally, maintain your focus on conversions as opposed to awareness and engagement. You know, conversions is the goal. If we want to focus on campaigns that are driving the most people to give you their email address or to take whatever action you're trying to drive them to. But email marketing by far is probably the natural next step for the majority of website customers that Chris and I have spoken to. It's so key, it's so critical to your kind of overall marketing plan and just overall engagement with customers. Anything else you want to add to that, Kristen, before we kind of wrap it up here?
Yeah, so email marketing is really interesting to me because a lot of people don't think about it so much. They build a website and they put it up, and then they're like, "Great, where's the people?" And there's all these other things that you can do, like with analytics and email marketing, to keep people engaged, keep them coming back. And when I think of email marketing, I think of it as a direct line of communication to your customers. So when you're thinking about your brand and the pictures and the colors, every time you sit down to write an email marketing campaign, try to keep that voice in mind. Like, who is my business? Who am I talking to? What do my customers like? And you can kind of test that through email marketing. But to me, email marketing is a super, super key piece to being successful online because it is a direct line of communication with your customers.
Great. So in conclusion, let me wrap up here with the final points. Website analytics. In our platform, we provide our customers with a lot of built-in reports that focus on the traffic you're getting to your website, where that traffic's coming from, like what countries are coming to you, the sales, marketing, the effectiveness of their email campaigns. So the other thing I would say to you, though, too, is if you use Google Analytics, a lot of web platforms can support Google Analytics. So you could take your Google Analytics account and you could seamlessly turn it on inside your Weebly account. And that's another great complementary tool to use to kind of grow your reporting. So I just wanted to share that with you. You should make sure every website platform should have some canned reports, but also know that a lot of website platforms can integrate very easily your Google Analytics account. And then the final piece is the ultimate transition to e-commerce. So when you're really ready, your product's built, you're ready to start selling it meaningfully online and actually start running an e-commerce business, that should be a seamless transition. And that can happen on Weebly. You can have a one-page site. You can be very focused on your pre-campaign. And then you can enable e-commerce very easily by adding the pages. And how we kind of approach that in a very short story is we have a consultative approach where we walk you through each step. And that's what I'm trying to kind of highlight here in this slide. We're helping you add your store info, you're going to add your product, you're going to add your product photo, and then voila, your store is ready to go. And it's all based on that simple drag and drop editor. So the transition should be easy. The transition should be able to be done from your pre-campaign landing page. You should not have to build another website, is my point. And then just two final thoughts. Weebly, in June of last year, we were acquired by Square. Square, obviously a very large payments company based in San Francisco. We're very excited about this acquisition. What this simply means is as we work with Indiegogo and we continue to invest in our partnership with Indiegogo, we're going to be delivering a lot more e-commerce tools and a lot more offline solutions for the Indiegogo members. And so we look very forward to that and sharing more details of that with everybody on the phone over this year, pardon me. And then basically in conclusion, as Martin said at the beginning, we have a partnership with Indiegogo. We are offering all Indiegogo members 50% discount off of the Weebly paid plans. And that's eligible now by going to that link on the slide. And yeah, we hope you can take advantage of that and get your website for really inexpensive rate and start building today. But with that being said, I want to thank everybody for your time today. I want to thank Indiegogo for the opportunity to kind of walk through these guidelines on pre-campaign landing pages. And I appreciate everybody's time today again. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris and Kristen. Thank you, Enzo. We've seen some questions coming in already, so we're going to start speaking to those. Sorry about that little audio hiccup. Yeah, so we are going to start speaking to some of the questions we've gotten. If any of you also have questions, please type them into the Q&A bar now, and we will do our best to get to all of them. So, first question is just a quick clarification. So, just for clarity, the landing page is the same as the website, but it's just one page before we build out the rest of the website. Chris or Kristen, would you be able to confirm that yes, that's the case?
That's correct. You could start with an initial theme. You're all building out. That's correct. Then when you're ready to evolve beyond that one page, you can do that at any time.
Great, fantastic. We had another question following up on photography and specifically how it relates to illustrations. And so would one of you be able to speak to whether or not the guidelines for like illustrations and drawings are the same as you would for, to take the same approach as you might for photography?
Yeah, so I think that is important. And with illustrations, I would just say make sure that they are high resolution. You don't want any blurry drawings on your website.
Great, thank you. Another question, maybe that both of you could, that we could have both Enzo and the Weebly team speak to is, do you iterate mainly during pre-campaign or also during the campaign? So Enzo, would you be able to start off there?
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly encourage you to continue to iterate your draft during the pre-campaign timing. And once you start learning more and more about which marketing assets converts best through your pre-campaign marketing efforts, you can implement those changes to the live campaign itself once you launch the crowdfunding phase.
Great, thank you. Sorry, Chris, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I agree with Enzo. You can absolutely iterate the landing page phase, and that's probably the most important. But I wouldn't want folks to necessarily wait at an e-commerce store to do that.
Great, thank you. We have a couple questions about the Weebly platform specifically. One of them is, are we able to access HTML and CSS code on Weebly?
Yes, you can still do that on Weebly.
Okay, great. And then, let's see, another question we're getting. Excuse me, I'm just looking through the questions here. Is another question about Weebly is, does Weebly have an email marketing capability, or do we need to use a service like MailChimp?
Weebly does have an integrated marketing tool that can be used. It's called Promote. So it's when you sign in, you'll see it in the top bar of your site in the dashboard. It's integrated with your website, so you can also get the analytics through Weebly, and the branding and stuff will match your website as well. You're also welcome to use an external tool like MailChimp.
Thanks, Kristen. Another question for Enzo. Could you speak to some of the average recommended time that people should spend on pre-campaign marketing?
Typically about 2 to 3 months, but the timing of how long you should be spending for the pre-campaign marketing will be driven by how quickly you're able to build that community of emails. So once you start testing your content and you start getting those email addresses and building your community, it should then drive how long it's going to take to get to that number that you need to confidently launch a successful campaign.
Great, thank you. Another question about the Weebly platform that we're seeing. Chris or Kristen, would you be able to speak to the cost associated? I know you'd mentioned the 50% discount, but someone was curious about how much it actually costs.
Yeah, the 50% discount, that is 50% off your first order. So basically, a Weebly website is as low as $8 per month, then moves to $12 per month, and then basically roughly $30 per month for the e-commerce plan. So you could, what we've noticed people doing is you can buy monthly or annually, and so some folks are choosing to just do annually because they get the biggest discount for that 50%, obviously.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see. Let me look at. Okay, here's a question also for Enzo about campaign strategy. What do you think about having, say, like the idea of setting a lower goal on Indiegogo just to establish market acceptance? So could you speak a little bit about like goal setting and how that relates to pre-campaign marketing?
Yeah, certainly having a lower goal will get your campaign to 100% fulfillment much quicker. However, we don't typically recommend having too low of a goal such that you won't be able to fulfill the eventual orders. Right, so you have to consider how much is it going to cost for you to actually manufacture your product and deliver those units to backers on time, hopefully, and that will drive where the lowest end of your fundraising goal should be. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Let's see, we want to make sure we're getting to some of the questions that were asked earlier as well. Here's another Weebly question. If you already have a website on Weebly, can it be adopted to the needs of the campaign, or does it have to be new? So Chris or Kristen, would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll take that. So, no, you don't have to start all over. You could even hide existing pages you have if you don't want to start from the scratch. But Weebly is super flexible, so really if you wanted to add new pages, you could just add a new page, hide the existing ones, tweak the existing ones you have. So when I think of a website, like I don't ever think of you building a Weebly website and you ever find the perfect formula and you're 100% done. Like no website works like that. It should always be changing, always be evolving. So it is an ongoing process. So you could totally tweak an existing website you have.
Great, thank you. Another question for the Weebly team, this one a little bit higher level. So you've offered a lot of suggestions about web design. So for someone who's coming at this like from the very, very beginning, what do you think should be the first step in terms of trying to identify what should go on the website? Of all these things we've talked about, what is the first thing to start figuring out?
This is Chris. I think it's a very fair question. To help that, most website platforms offer a template, like a pre-built template, and we offer that at Weebly we to help kind of kick off the thought process and brainstorming and creativity. So, I like to think that by having a pre-built template, really we're going to keep it focused on two things. I think the product image is going to be really key. So I think that should be an easy one for everybody because there's clearly something that you're building that you want people to help invest in. So that's part one. And I think part two is there's so much different routes you can go with content, but we have always liked the idea of that first step, especially on a landing page, to be something about why you're doing this. And not just from like a competitive point of view, because I think competitor XYZ isn't doing so great, but more like what is the personal mission you're on? What are you hoping to achieve? Like what's the long-term goal of it? And kind of bringing people into your excitement and into your share, exposing a little bit more of the personality of your product. And I like to think that that's easier to write. That's an easier thing to write than just a product feature bullet list, for example. And then that could be it. High quality product photo, great. One paragraph about your mission, and then you can always continue to iterate on that. And that's the one great thing about websites, as Kristen said. You're going to start getting traffic. You're going to start receiving emails. You're going to start getting feedback. And that feedback is going to be great because it's going to help you evolve your site and give you other ideas.
Thanks, Chris. Another question touching on something that you were asking about earlier, and do you have any comments on SEO, or like what are some steps that entrepreneurs can use to try and get attention to their websites in that way?
There's kind of two key things from my perspective, and I'm happy to let Kristen also address this too. Out of the box, Weebly has built-in SEO tools to help drive traffic to your website. Very easy to use, simple to enable. And then in addition to that, what we have done is we've built this app center where there are other companies like MarketGoo or Site Booster that will help automate some of these SEO campaigns for you, and also maybe give guidance on other areas to focus on. So the idea would be there's out-of-the-box SEO solutions you can use today, and there's very seamlessly integrated, just available for you to enable third-party apps that will help you go even deeper on SEO. But let me pause right there. Anything to piggyback off of that, Kristen?
Yeah, so SEO can be a bit of a rabbit hole. It's very robust, but on Weebly.com/SEO, there's a very comprehensive guide going through everything you need to know about SEO on Weebly. You could also incorporate Google Analytics to your website if you want to incorporate like a different style of tracking and analytics into your site, so you have that companion to the stats that Weebly provides you. But our SEO guide goes through everything between URL optimization, choosing a domain, image SEO, and I do think SEO is an important component to how your website performs. But do know that you will spend some time learning about SEO, and maybe you're a super busy entrepreneur and you don't have time, and that's when I would suggest looking at MarketGoo and Site Booster and those automated SEO tools.
Thanks to both of you. So we're getting near the end of our time, so we're gonna wrap up this Q&A for now. I want to again thank Enzo from Indiegogo and Kristen from Weebly for joining us today. I also want to thank all of you for joining us today and your fantastic questions. As a final two reminders, we will share a recording of this webinar afterwards, so keep an eye out for that. And in addition, if you have more questions about Indiegogo campaign strategy, be sure to reach out to Enzo. And if you are interested in building a website, check out the Weebly page on Indiegogo.com to learn more about that special discount. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.